Hey, welcome to episode 7 of the Behind the GAVL podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Rapley, co-founder and CEO of GAVL Marketing. We're a full comprehensive marketing agency for law firms all around the country. Yeah, episode 7. This is phenomenal. If this is your first time tuning in, we have these podcasts where we talk to great friends of ours in the legal industry. We kind of talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of what's going on and in a digital marketing agency in the legal industry, and try to provide value to any lawyer out there listening who may want to gain some insights from these guests, from us. Maybe you're looking to change up your digital marketing approach, whatever it is. Hopefully this provides some value for you. And as always, reach out if you ever have any questions. For those who are active listeners, I really appreciate it. Episode 7 is a big deal. I mean, every episode's a big deal. You know, I think once we hit, what's the number, Oscar? If you can hear this in the background, that we are like officially official or something.
We're above like 20% of podcasts. It's episode 12.
Episode 12. All right. So this will put us over halfway there. It's episode 12. So let's keep it moving. Today, I have a phenomenal guest, and I guarantee probably everyone listening to this knows who this person is. I'm going to be joined by Cheryl Pope. She is the founder of Carlton Human Capital. Cheryl is an organizational effectiveness consultant and executive coach who works closely with law firms to improve leadership, communication, and team performance. She helps firms align their people, clarify their goals, and ultimately build organizations that actually function the way they're supposed to. I've known Cheryl now for many years. Her husband, Brian Pope's a good friend of mine. This is really going to be a treat today. Let's jump in. Cheryl Pope, thank you for being here. I've known you now for several years. Have seen you many, many times. Worked with you in the past. You're a phenomenal business coach, executive coach, and thanks for being on the show today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for the kind words, and flattery will get you everywhere. So I appreciate it.
That is good to know. For people meeting you for the first time, why don't you just share a little bit about your background and kind of what led you to executive coaching and consulting?
Yeah, I think the highlights are I did the whole corporate America thing out of college, worked for American Airlines, then went to work for Brinker, which is the parent company for like all the fun restaurants, Chili's, Maggiano's, et cetera. I was the HR director for Maggiano's. And then I went to work in a private equity environment for a firm that did a lot of corporate acquisitions and things like that. And all of that was within the people space, whether it's, traditional personnel / human resources. Then I did employee relations, like I did flight attendant contract negotiations.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And there's a reason why I refer to that as 3 years of my life I'll never get back. But it was definitely interesting. But all along the way, working in corporate America, and then I met my husband around the midpoint of that, and he's a lawyer. He's a personal injury lawyer. And so, once I was kind of toying around with the idea of going out on my own, I'd actually thought about it for years. And then what actually gave me I don't know if it was the courage or just kind of like, I didn't care about anything else to be able to do it, is my dad got diagnosed with lung cancer. And so I grew up in North Carolina. I live in Texas now. I didn't really want to be worried about how many PTO days I was taking to have to go back home and be with him, because when we got that diagnosis, we knew what the end result was going to be. We just didn't know how long it was going to be. And so I learned real quick that I am not a full-time caregiver. So I started picking up some different projects and different things like that, just with some companies here. And then I had an epiphany one night at dinner when I literally had been getting deposed at dinner every night for the first 10 years of our marriage. Like,
I could see that too.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be like, yeah, is it true you went to the grocery store today? Are we is it true we're having steak? I was like, dude, just eat the steak, right? But I realized that most lawyers, or a lot of lawyers, especially on the plaintiff side, when they go to law school, they learn a lot about the law, but nothing about business. I was like, you know what? There's a way that I can probably translate some of my skills and experience in corporate America to the legal side of the world. Because what happens with a lot of lawyers, my husband included, is he went to law school because he didn't want to get involved in business. And so then he goes and he works for another lawyer for a couple of years, and it's great, and worked for a couple different firms. And then he's like, you know what? I could do this better than these bozos. I mean, I'm not saying that he thought they were all bozos, but, generally speaking,
Yeah.
like I could do it better. And then what he didn't realize is he had outsmarted himself because he was now, in fact, a business owner. And so just kind of, it's a little bit longer explanation, but I think it gives some insight into like how and why I got into doing a lot of stuff within the legal community, because I do understand the pains that that a law firm goes through, especially those at the top who are running it as a business or trying to run it as a business when all they want to do is try cases.
Yeah.
And so, so that's kind of how I got involved with doing
So
that.
were you seeing those issues in those firms before you had the epiphany? So then you're like, oh, this would be a perfect niche to get into.
Yeah. And so like I know that we see each other at injury board related events, right? And so I would go to things like injury board or leaders forum or even just AAJ, and we would be friends with like all these lawyers, and they inevitably over a few cocktails starts sharing their frustrations and things like that. And I was like, oh, okay, like this is a thing. There's some opportunities here. And so I said about 10 years ago, I just started working with a couple of clients, and then they, would tell somebody else, and then I've just got a litany of law firm clients that I work with, and I love it because it's not the cookie cutter kind of thing that you tend to find in corporate America. Every law firm's different, and I love just getting in and getting to know the people and the challenges, etc. So
that's awesome. So how much of a firm's performance problems are actually people problems versus operational problems?
Well, I would say I'm a little biased in my answer, but I would say 100% because I'm not aware of any firm that can operate without people. And I don't care how much technology you have. The technology is only as good as the people who are using it and operating it. And it's like, case management systems, for example, that's like the bane of every firm's existence. Like there's always that one person who doesn't want to use it or whatever, or doesn't put it in the right way. And, so garbage in, garbage out, or, you really use it the way it's intended, and it frees up your people to actually connect with your clients and build those relationships and do those things that tend to separate you from other law firms. So, that's really kind of just where it comes down to core belief. I am somebody who just feels like there's no company that's successful without its people. And the ones who do really, really well are the ones who understand that and try and engage their people and try and build kind of a value proposition where everybody's aligned and rowing in the same direction, because that's what differentiates kind of a career from just a eight and skate job, if you will.
And that could be hard because, as you grow, there's so many different personalities that come into your business. What is, you've worked with us before. What was that test called? I think I was a D personality. I'm a little stubborn. But what was that called? The DISC assessment or something?
Yeah, it's the DISC assessment. And basically it's just a way to look at how you approach work. And if you think about it, like the key questions to ask are, are you more outgoing or more reserved, or more people oriented or more task oriented? And that kind of helps people understand what somebody's natural style is. And it's not intended to say, hey, this is exactly who you are. It's a self-assessment. So if somebody doesn't like it, I mean, it's a self-assessment. So but what it does is it creates a common language for people in the organization. And so we've all had people that we've worked with that some of them we love working with, but we probably never thought about why. And then others who we may love to go grab lunch or a cocktail with, but don't put me on a project with them because I might wind up in prison as a result, right? Because, but if we, but like for you, for example, like you have the D style, that's the dominant style. That means you like results, you like to get things done, time, let's go, go, go. I, on the other hand, I am more of the I style with a little bit of D, which means influence and dominance, which I like to get a lot of stuff done, but I'm all about collaboration and excitement, and I don't love details per se. So if you and I work together on a project, we're probably going to be fairly aligned on a lot of levels. But let's say we work with somebody who's super detail oriented. You and I are like, yeah, we just need to be in Chicago by 5:00 next Tuesday.
Right.
And fine, we're there. That person may be like, well, but wait, are we flying? Are we driving? Are we going together? Like, what if I don't get there on time? What if I get there early? Like all of these different things.
Which you need those people.
You need
because
those
otherwise people like me are just going to fall apart and not know what to wear in the morning,
Yeah. And if you know that going in, you can, as I always say, you can use your powers for good, not evil. If you just like ignore the fact that that person needs that detail, it just causes friction in the work relationship. And when you have that friction, you take your eye off the prize, right? The clients suffer, the work suffers, etc. So it's just a helpful tool.
I always thought that was really cool because, as the business owner or, any attorney that runs a firm out there listening to this right now, like, I think that's one of the first things that you should do getting into like a relationship with you. I think this is like one of the first things they should do, because that way they can understand their people and why their people do things certain ways. And then that can help them interact with those people. So then, if you send an email to someone, sometimes you read an email or a text, you're like, why are you yelling at me? Why are you so like, but they're not, that's just how they respond to things or how they're, but if you call them on the phone and be like, why are you so upset with me? They'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm not.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I got two things in response to that. I'll talk about the latter one first, which is when you get an email, you can't help but read it in the voice of the person that you are hearing, in the way that you're interpreting it. And you make assumptions based on other people's behaviors. You judge your own behavior based on your intent. And those things don't always like match up with one another. And so while I appreciate you saying that the business owners or the law firm owners would be great to have it done with the staff, it's almost on some levels more important that when they do it, it's actually a self-awareness tool for them, because if they don't understand how other people are experiencing them.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a multi-step process. So
Yep. And, and I struggle with that all the time, trying to, because I wake up every day with a sense of urgency, like, got to get this done. Like there's always a million things to do. And then, sometimes I get frustrated with like, why didn't this get done? Like, well, it takes time to get done. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's got to get done. So I have a hard time trying to see everything in the lenses of other people, but having that self-awareness and understanding those things has really helped me a lot. And just kind of like, oh, let me just sit back a little bit, calm down. So I really appreciate that. And actually that's something I want to engage you with, some of my new team members that we've grown over the last year or so since we last had you for one of your retreats. I think that'd be a great thing we should do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would love that. And if you think about it, there's not another person on the planet that thinks exactly like you or me or anybody else. And then, so how we approach work is one thing, but then you think about things like generational differences, right? Then you think about things like just industry differences. And, when you look at all the dimensions of difference that we all bring to the table, if we actually, as humans, learn and understand and build upon those, that's where the magical power comes with an organization. But so many times, especially in law firms, I just use it as an example here, people be like, well, I got a new paralegal, they've been working for 15 years. They're going to be able to come in and hit the ground running. And like, you're not going to just have a conversation with them or like, think about like how you do things here versus how they maybe did things at their former, firm. And, they may bring some great ideas to the table. And if you just set them straight to work, and nose to the grindstone, you're going to miss out on some opportunities. So
You've said that when people feel understood, they become champions. How does that play out inside a firm?
yeah, I mean, I go back to it's the difference between a career and a job. I mean, people work for two reasons. There's the rational reason of, well, I got to pay rent. I enjoy food. Air conditioning in the summertime in Texas is pretty key.
Yeah.
So that's the rational reason why I work. Now, where you actually get the engagement is when you are making that kind of emotional connection with people and people believe in what they do. So using a law firm, let's just use a personal injury law firm, for example. If you're just hiring somebody to like maybe be a receptionist to come in and answer the phones, that's a job that you can find in most professional services type organizations. That's great if you just want somebody to come in and answer the phone. But if you then find out that that person is being rude or dismissive to clients, et cetera, they probably don't really understand what they're doing. And so if you can actually help tell them the story of why what y'all do matters, and show how you're really impacting somebody's life, because being a lawyer is a really unique role. And everybody who has chosen to go to law school and become a lawyer, they have willingly walked into a career and an industry where of their clients, none of their clients actually want to ever have to talk to them.
Yeah.
You think about that, they don't want a lot of repeat business because it means that bad things are continuing to happen to them on the personal injury front, right?
Right.
And so if you can help everybody in the organization understand the why behind the firm, that's going to get everybody, all of a sudden you're not going to have your staff being like, oh, Sally Sue is so annoying. I wish she would just stop, calling me every day, blah, blah, blah. And if you get them to think as almost owners instead of renters for the firm themselves, then that's where you get that champion kind of mindset and mentality for all of the teammates.
When a lawyer comes to you and wants to engage with you, do you have like a minimum team size before that starts to make sense? Or are you working with solos all the way up to multiple partner firms?
Yeah. That's the beauty, I think, of me or what I enjoy doing. I would say, like, if I had to put a label on what I do, I'm more of a boutique firm. You're not going to call me up and be like, hey, can you send me a pricing list and I'll take package, 3B and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I want to understand, like, anytime I talk to somebody about potentially working together, and I view it as working together, like it's got to work for both of us. And I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and everybody's firm is not going to be right for me because, we gotta make sure it works. But It starts off with a conversation, because so often people will call me and think that this is the problem that they need to solve. But then once you start talking to them, the problem's actually maybe a little bit of this, but then, a lot more of that. And so just really kind of having a conversation about that. I do everything from individual, just one-on-one traditional executive coaching with, sometimes it's the owner, sometimes it's a new associate, maybe somebody who's ready to, take on more responsibility but needs some development. To, I think some of my larger clients have had 150, 200 employees,
Wow.
And I just recently did a kind of a partner retreat for a firm where we had all the attorneys, and there were, I've lost track. I mean, it looked like 28, 30 people, something like that in the room. So
yeah, does that ever get like overwhelming for you? Like, 'cause I feel like if I could talk to a screen and to you all day long, but I always have an issue when I get on stage and, have to present in front of people. Does that ever like?
Oh, sure. I get nervous every time I go in front of somebody, every time I do something just one-on-one like this. I think that's just human nature, but I get tremendous energy from doing that. And I mean, let's just be real.
It's got to be hard to get them riled up though, and to get.
Oh, well, And let's also talk about the obvious fact that sometimes as humans, we can all be really annoying, right? And when you get 30 of us in a room, it is definitely like herding cats,
Yep.
right? And so there's just little things that, I've learned along the way. Like if I'm going to have a meeting with 30 people, I'm going to set some ground rules up front. We're going to put them on the board and, we're going to like talk about the importance of sharing the stage. And if somebody over here is talking too much, I'm going to be like, hey, let's go back to the ground rules and let's give other people a chance to talk and, things like that. But yeah, it's funny because when I do those kinds of events, I get so excited doing them, but then I am exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah, I bet.
And yeah, and most people are like, well, we're going to have this happy hour and then dinner. I'm like, I'm so tired. I just want to go back to my room with a glass of wine and like watch mindless television. Right. So.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always gave Tad Thomas, who's my business partner in GAVL. We started this thing almost 10 years ago now, but I always blown away watching how many talks he can give in a year and just going from city to city talking. Like the guy's got so much energy. It just boggles my mind. Like I'm thinking in my head, if I do one a year, I'm going to be like freaking out for the entire year leading up to it. Then after I'm going to be like, all right, I need to go on sabbatical here or something, where he's always just every week there's like something going on. So that's always blown me away. How someone can do that.
I think that's a great point. And this is why if organizations can understand how people are wired and can actually understand what people, or actually take the time to ask people what they enjoy doing, what they hate doing, etc., you can build a team to maximize people's strengths. Now, at the end of the day, like my grandfather used to say, work is still a 4-letter word and you have to get paid to do it for a reason. So it's not, you only get to come in and do what you only like to do. Sometimes there's tasks that you don't enjoy as much. Yeah. But if you can send the person who loves to be out on the road and in front of people to do that, that's what you should do. But I've seen so many organizations in the legal field or not, who send the absolute wrong person to a conference, and they'll just be the person sitting at the bar by themselves, willing the clock to move faster so that they can go home for the night. So
I'm not going to lie. That was me for probably the first 4 years in this industry, because I came into this as a nerd, building websites, doing SEO, not being a salesperson. And I never knew how to do sales, never wanted to do sales. I still don't feel like I'm a salesperson. But now it's like, when I get to those things, it's more, I enjoy it way more now with having, worked with people like you, worked with Tad, worked with others, of gaining confidence and just being in the industry for so long and other people. I think one of the best things that anyone can do is obviously be nice to people, but there are some of and this is something I think where it's great to train people on. It's even if you're the biggest attorney in the world and you see someone new at a conference, shake their hand, talk to them. Like someone who, it's like, because in some of these cliques and some of these, events we go to, you see some of these big shot attorneys who you think are like untouchable. You can't go talk to them. They'll never share anything. They're almost like rock stars in some of these, and then you go and meet them and they're some of the most humble, nicest people. I think of like Tony Romanucci.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah.
I met Tony like, my first couple of times there, and everyone he remembered my name, stopped, talked to me. And I don't work with Tony, but he's such a nice guy. Even Toby, I hope Toby listens to this. Our friend Toby Milrod, my first ever convention, this is in 2017 in Boston. Toby's like, hey, isn't it your birthday? I'm like, how do you know it's my birthday? Just those little things, they go such a long way.
Yeah. Well, and I talk a lot when I am with clients about this whole concept of the emotional bank account. Every interaction you have with somebody, you're making a deposit or a withdrawal, whether you know it or not.
Genius.
Yeah. And so, well, I wish I could say that I came up with it. It really comes from Stephen Covey from like 20 or 30 years ago. But just the concept of
Yeah.
like, you don't even think about like, am I making a deposit or a withdrawal? And it brings me back to a quote that Maya Angelou, the poet, says, and I always butcher it, but the gist of it is people will forget what you say, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that's so true. And so, and bringing it back, Tony's a great example of that. Toby's a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
Because you see both of them and you're like, oh man, I want to feel seen. And I
Yeah.
think as humans, that's what we all ultimately want, whether it's in a small firm of 3 people or whether it's a 3,000 person AAJ conference. So
Yeah. So do most people come to you when there's already a fire, or are your clients more proactive in getting engaged with you before there's a fire they need to put out in their firm?
I guess the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit of both. And so for the first example, somebody comes with a fire. Like what I don't do is if you have a problem employee and you want to call me and say, can you come fix them? No, I'm not Mr. Wolf from Pulp Fiction. I'm not like the
The
fixer.
George Clooney guy, where he
Oh yeah, up
he
in the
flies
air.
around the country
Yeah.
and he just goes and fires people.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but if it's endemic of a bigger cultural problem with the team, absolutely. So I get people from everything ranging from, hey, I'm getting ready to go out on my own. I want to make sure I build the foundation of the house correctly, to I have a client who just celebrated their 40th anniversary as a firm who brought me in like 3 or 4 years ago. And they were like, we've never really done this. We've had pretty good success, but oh my gosh, what if we actually, were more intentional about stuff? And they've actually done quite well over the last couple of years, just getting everybody in the team, kind of understanding where they're going, et cetera. Because I also am a real big proponent for law firms having kind of a mission and a vision and a set of values. Because it's like, what do you do? Where are you trying to go? And how does everybody play in the sandbox together? Because without that, especially when we kind of think about generational differences, the younger generations, they're very value driven and very like they want to know, where are we trying to go? And if you as the business owner haven't figured that out, I mean,
It is hard sometimes being the business owner because, you are constantly just moving and going to I'm juggling a ton of projects at one time. And then I like, oh shoot, I forgot to take care of this issue over here or do that. So it can be really hard sometimes. So, I sympathize with those attorneys, who go through that because I understand, but
yeah.
also having the proper training in place and the proper foundations and how to do that, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I just say, it's important to work on the business, not just in the business. And sometimes, like, whenever I do, like, let's say I do a retreat, retreat for, some of the partners, they're like, well, can we just do it in the conference room here? I'm like, I think that's a really bad idea. And here's why. Because if you are going into the same place you go in every day, there's no way that you are going to be 100% locked in on what we're talking about. And we're trying to get you to forget about the day to day for this period of time and think aspirationally about where you want to go. And if you're a paralegal, it's just one knock away from getting you to come out of the conference room, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. I mean, I'm not saying we got to go to like the Bahamas or anything. It's nice when we do because I've had a client that's done that. But sometimes just getting a change of scenery, changes the kind of neural pathways in your brain to get you to think about things differently.
Yeah. Then shoot, that's why, I have a home office. I work from home a couple days a week, but I have an office downtown here in Williamsport. And it's like, I need to get out of that space.
Yeah.
I need to get into my work space, my work environment. It shakes things up. Is it too early? Is it ever too early to get talking to you? Even like, how does that process work? Like what's the initial consultation call like with you?
I mean, it's just hey, can we chat? It costs nothing to call me up and talk. And I was going to mention this earlier because I think this is kind of funny. So, I for years have been going to stuff like AAJ and things with my husband, Brian Pope. And then when I started working with law firms, I started like speaking at AAJ and things like that. And you can just see the looks on their face when they're like, why is Brian's wife up there talking? This is so weird. And so a lot of the times when I get up and speak at some of these things, that's when that first conversation will take place. Or like we'll go to there's about 1,000 happy hours at social events at conferences. Somebody will see me and be like, I had no idea you did this. Like, why would I call you? What would we talk about? And one of the things that I think or that I pride myself on is if somebody calls me up and says, here's what I'm thinking, blah, blah, blah. If it's not in my wheelhouse, I'm going to tell you it's not in my wheelhouse or that I'm not the best person for it. Because I'm not the best fit for every organization. But if somebody is thinking, well, gosh, I wish that we were a little bit more effective. I wish that our culture was a little bit different. I wish that we could increase our business results. Who can I talk to just to even help me figure out what things I should be thinking about or looking at? Call me. I'm in for a phone call.
Do you ever help like train intake or set? Some of these intake teams now are getting really big. Are you working with firms for that? Like how here's how you answer a call. Here's how you do all this, all the little nuances that go into being a good intake person.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I do training on how to be an intake person, but I do do a lot of stuff around communications, how to connect with people, how to actively listen. Because we've all been on the phone with somebody from like whether it's the cable company or, whoever it may be. And you can tell when somebody's listening to you or when they're just focused on filling out a form. And it's not an easy task to actively listen to somebody and input accurate data in a system. But there's a way you can do it. And if you don't understand how to like stop and do some of these things, it can be detrimental. But
I guess AI is here for that anyway. So.
Right.
How about a couple rapid fire questions?
Okay. I'm game for anything, but I also reserve the right to say pass.
Okay, but then I can just text Brian and get the real answer.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good.
Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
What's your coffee order?
It's usually like a latte, almond milk latte or vanilla latte. I'm more about the fancy stuff that goes in it than I am the actual coffee.
So as a coach, did you have a coach or coaches in your life that inspired you?
100%. I still do. Well, I mean, I've had people personally who are true like coaches do that, but I also learned from people. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a little sensitive today, so please don't bring up my beloved Tar Heels since we choked the biggest choke in years. But last night. But
Duke almost did the same thing.
I know. And, here's the thing. As somebody who went to North Carolina, Dean Smith and Roy Williams, obviously at the pinnacle of like people that I respect. I can't believe I'm actually going to verbalize this. Same with Mike Krzyzewski, right?
Hey, Team USA coach, it's fine,
Well, but you think about like what you can learn from how these coaches in sports deal with things. You can take a lot of those lessons from sports and bring it into the workplace because it's all about teamwork and just humanity, getting people to work together.
What's something people would be surprised to learn about you?
My husband would say that it's I drive with 2 feet. My left foot does the brake and my right foot does the gas. I don't know how I did that. I think
you don't really do that, do you?
I do. It's very bizarre.
Whoa.
It's very bizarre.
That is weird. I'm just trying to do it right now. Yeah, I couldn't do that. That's crazy.
Which is why I can't drive a stick shift because I don't have a third.
You don't have a third foot.
Yeah. So
you can do the paddle shifters if you wanted to.
Well, here's where it played well for me. So we were in DC for something a couple months ago, and they have one of those F1 simulation bar things or whatever. And I did pretty well with that because I'm used to the left and the right.
Quick break. Yep. What's the best piece of career advice you ever received?
Just go and be you. Don't try and be what everybody else wants you to do. I'll never forget. I had come from one boss who was kind of a micromanager. And so I was just like, well, what about this? What about this? And I got promoted and I went to work for this new guy. And about 2 weeks in, I'm, peppering him with all these things. He just calls me in the office. He's like, listen, I hired you to do a job because I trust you to do the job. You need to let me know when I need to know something because it's going to keep me out of trouble or when it's going to keep you out of trouble. But just keep doing what you're doing. Be you, figure it out. And, that's it. I trust you.
Yep.
I was like, wow, okay, I'm good.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
And what's the worst advice you ever received?
Move to Texas? No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, I've been here 30 years. Obviously, it's not as horrible as
Too hot for me. Oh.
Well, I will tell you, Ryan, in the last 5 days, we have had all 4 seasons. We were like freezing on Monday morning when I woke up. I had to get my coat out, and then it's going to be 90 some odd degrees today. So
wild. That's wild.
Crazy.
What does success look like to you today?
For me, it is making a difference, enjoying what I do, and not really, I guess, kind of leaving things better than I found them. So
I love that. Still my biggest takeaway from this entire conversation with you is every time you talk with someone, you're either withdrawing or depositing. Like that is huge. I think that should be on a t-shirt or a hoodie or something. That's great. I was going to end it right here, but I did want to ask one question, and I kind of already know this, but for the people who don't, why is your business named Carlton Human Capital?
Oh, well, and it's a great segue because I had this amazing company who helped me revamp my website, and you might have heard of them. They're called GAVL. But as part of kind of the initial discovery process, people are like, why is it Carlton Human Capital? Is that your maiden name? I was like, well, that's a logical question. And I think first of all, when I was trying to you got to name your business something. And so with a last name like Pope, I was like, what am I going to call it? Like Papal Blessings or, I didn't want to put my actual name on there. But when I thought about what I was doing, it's all about if you give people clear direction, if you positively reinforce them, etc., then things go well. But if you don't, then things fall apart. And so we had a dog. Our very first dog was named Carlton. It's a gorgeous golden retriever. If you check out my website, there's a couple pictures of him. But I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Same thing with Carlton. If I give him clear direction, positive reinforcement, let him out when he needs to go, it's great. If I yell at him, if I don't, if I'm 12 seconds late on feeding him or any of those types of things, he would leave me surprises I did not necessarily want. And for the dog owners out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
We know what you mean. Yep.
Yeah. But Carlton's our first dog. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Cheryl. It's always a pleasure. And I'm sure I will see you soon. We will put every way to contact you in the show notes. Any law firm owner, doesn't matter how big or small as you heard today, reach out to Cheryl. I'm sure there's something that she can do to help your firm, whether it's you guys engaged as a client relationship or just advice.
Thanks, Ryan. I really appreciate it. This is a great way for me to end the week. It's kind of like happy hour in the morning for me.
That's true. It is Friday. So happy Friday.
I know. So thanks for having me. And same thing, everybody call GAVL because I'm super proud of the work they did on my website. So.
Thank you. Yeah, your website did turn out phenomenal. Yeah, really, really nice. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks a lot to Cheryl Pope for being on the show today. Episode 7. Like I said in the show, my biggest takeaway from that is this whole thing about every time you interact with someone, you're either making a deposit or a withdrawal. So I think all of us need to start thinking about that more, especially in this time we're living in with all of this nonstop chaos. I'm one who's not political. I don't try to watch the news all the time or listen to everything, but there's a lot of chaos going on right now. Keep that in mind next time you're talking to someone. You're making a deposit or a withdrawal. Try to make more deposits than withdrawals. A lot of great stuff there. Encourage everyone to reach out to Cheryl. We'll have all of her information in the show notes. One thing I would like to highlight today in this outro is congrats to the GAVL team. This is the Behind the GAVL podcast, so I should mention something about the team. We just launched. I guess it'll probably be when this show comes out a week prior, but for us, real time while I'm recording this, yesterday we launched my business partner Tad Thomas's new law firm website for Thomas Law offices. It's truly one of the best law firm websites, I think, on the internet. It really turned out amazing. So kudos to the whole team at GAVL for putting that together and investing just a large amount of work. It's a big site. Everything's custom designed, custom coded from the ground up. And it really turned out pretty awesome. So check that out. And if you're listening and if you're, a law firm out there looking for what's next when it comes to your marketing and advertising, feel free to reach out. Let's just have a discovery call. Hope this show is providing some value to you, and we appreciate you listening. If you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. And I'm not a professional podcast host, so I don't know all the other things that all of those professional podcast hosts mention. But I think you go to anywhere where you listen to your show or something, hit a plus button. I'm sure it all helps. So thank you, and see you next time.